In this video, we are going to take a look at the deck lists from Japan that have been doing well in the Stellar Crown format. So we have a few decks that are brand new. We have, I think, 2 decks that are older versions but added just like 1 or 2 cards, and we also have 1 returning legendary Pokemon. Is it legendary Pokemon? I don't think so. But we have the return of 1 very legendary deck. So let's go. So first up, we take a look at what is probably the best deck in the format, which is Charizard EX. So this is the deck list that plays Giant Tree. So for those who don't know, Giant Tree allows you to search your deck for stage 1 and a stage 2 Pokemon and evolve it on the same turn, but you cannot evolve it on the turn that you put down the basic. So if you put down the Charmander, you have to wait for the next turn for you to evolve it to the Charmeleon and the Charizard. So this saves you a rare candy, and which is why this deck list plays Pidgeotto. Yep, so other than that, it's a very normal Charizard EX deck. And there is also the addition of Bria. I don't know how to pronounce it. So it says you can play this card only if your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining until the end of your turn. If your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out by damage from one of your Terra Pokemon, in this case, which should be your Charizard EX most of the time, you take 1 more prize card. So this solves some matchups where it can get awkward. For example, Ancient Box, you can take 1 more extra prize, or against the Mirror, sometimes they give you a single prize for you to take, and then it becomes 3 prizes instead of 2 prizes left. You can use Briar to take the additional prize cards. So taking additional prize cards is always a good mechanism. And Charizard EX makes full use of it. Just the 2 additional cards for this deck list. Okay, so this is another version without the Giant Tree. It plays Unfair Stamp. To be honest, I am a bigger fan of this. The Giant Tree helps both you and our opponent, which I don't really like, so Unfair Stamp is my preferred choice of ace spec. Yeah, it just adds the Bria to an existing Zard list. Yeah, I don't see anything different, so Charizard EX is pretty much established in the format. Like, you shouldn't be making too many changes to it. So this is, I predict what most people will be playing. But with the decrease in count of Iron Thorns, a lot of decks rather in Stellar Crown don't have abilities like you will see later, or they can play around Iron Crown, so you might not need the Cancelling Cologne over here, but it can be for other purposes like your block Snorlax, so having 1 does help. Next up, we have the Raging Bolt and Tumask Ogerpon deck. So what is the new addition over here? Yeah, it's still the Briar. This deck list plays 1 Judge. I think it's to kind of disrupt your opponent in a way. So Briar is very, very good in the format, but it's a one-off, right? You don't really need 2 in the deck, and most of the time you can get it off your prize cards. So you don't really need unless it's the last like 3 cards in your prizes. So 1 is enough for most decks that play it. Yep, it's very established already. There's a Sandy Shocks over there, maybe for the Miraidon EX matchup. What else? Oh yeah, there are quite a few colorless decks that will appear. Later you will see. Yep, other than that, it's quite a straightforward Raging Bolt deck. So this particular deck list plays Crispin. So let's see what Crispin does. So what it does is search your deck for 2 basic energy cards of different types. Reveal them to your reveal them to your opponent and put 1 of them in your hand. Attach the other energy to 1 of your Pokemon. And this is very useful in a Raging Bolt deck because you get to search your deck, number 1, and number 2, you get to attach them on top of your already allocated 1 energy attachment per turn. So it's like a mini Sada, Although Sada, of course, is definitely better, but Crispin could help if, let's say, if you don't have energy cards in your hand. Yep, other than that, no other new cards. Yep, so Raging Bolt and Charizard EX have been quite established, means the deck list won't differ by much, at most at 2, maximum 3 cards. So yep, we now move on to the first new EX card in Stellar Crown, and that is Hydreipo EX. So Hydreipo EX ability Ripening Charge. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. If you attach energy to a Pokemon in this way, heal 30 damage from that Pokemon. So the healing is alright, it's nice to have. The main thing is attachment, right? Grass attachment. So this is similar to your Tumask Ogerpon EX, and of course the attack is similar as well. Syrup Storm, 30 plus 30 plus 30 more damage for each leaf energy attached to all your Pokemon. So it's not just itself like Tumask Ogerpon, it's all your Pokemon. So the engine of this deck is to use Tumask Ogerpon to charge energy and draw cards, and for Hydreipo EX to attach leaf energies onto itself. Yep, so you also have Dripplin, is it called Dripplin? The Applin's evolution. So it works very well together because you get to search your deck for any card and put it in your hand. How powerful is that, right? Other than that, we also have the Giant Tree, of course, because it's a stage 2 deck. So this is a second deck list that doesn't play Big Tree. It plays Scoop Up Cyclone because with the healing capability of Hydreipo EX at 330 HP, it is very tanky. It can be very tanky. So Scoop Up Cyclone allows you to scoop up your Hydreipo EX and then re-evolve it. And of course, Dripplin makes it easy for you to search for the cards that you need. And this is another deck list that plays YDFV, and you have a new Stadium Area 0 Underground that allows you to have up to 8 bench Pokemon. We will come to that stadium a little bit more later, but this stadium allows you to have 8 bench Pokemon if you have a Terra Pokemon in play. So in this case, your Tumask Ogerpon fits the criteria. So just the one-off stadium, no A-Spec, very surprising choice. Not particular big fan, but it won a mini tournament in Japan, so who's to complain? We now move on to what I think could be an underdog in the meta, and that is Galvantula EX. So Galvantula EX first attack charge when if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX or V Pokemon, it deals 110 more damage. So 220 does knock out some Pokemon Vs and EXs. Yeah, so don't underestimate this attack. The second attack, Grass, I get confused. Sometimes I say Grass Energy, sometimes I say Leaf Energy, but you get what I mean. So it's a Grass Energy, Lightning Energy, Fighting Energy, Falgarette. So discard all energy from this Pokemon, but you get to item lock your opponent, and 180 damage and item lock can be very devastating. So this deck allows you to charge up your Pokemon quickly using Blissey EX, so that after you discard all your energy cards, you get to recharge it back to your Pokemon. So you have a new trainer card called Glasshorn, which allows you to charge 2 energy cards onto your bench colorless Pokemon. The criteria being you must have a Terra Pokemon in play. Is it in play or bench? Let me check. Yep, as long as you have Terra Pokemon in play, you can charge 2 energy cards, 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile to one of your colorless Pokemon. So this deck works by charging your Blissey EX and then use Energy Shift to shift to your Galvantula EX and then 180 item lock turn after turn after turn. This deck also uses the new A-Spec card, Sparkling Crystal, I believe that's what it's called. so it allows you to attack with 1 energy less requirement, so you can attack with 2 energies instead of the 3. So very useful ace deck, and also Crispin definitely helps. So very interesting deck. Do keep a lookout for it. The only weakness I see this deck have is a 30 HP Joltik. So it's a very big Dragapult EX target, right? So if you put 2 Joltiks down and you cannot evolve it, Dragapult EX is going to have a buffet, 6 damage counters, KOs, 2 Joltiks. So that is a big problem from what I see. Otherwise, this can do quite a lot of damage and win quite a bit of games, I would say. Next up is Galvantula EX, but with a very familiar face, or rather 6 very familiar faces, with Reggie. So with the Area Zero Underground, you get to have 8 bench Pokemon. So Regis is the way you charge up your Pokemon, and yeah, because you discard all your energies, and then Regigigas is the way to charge them back up, and 180 item lock again. So very creative. I would say this is a fun deck. But the thing is, if your opponent gets rid of your stadium, you will have a very hard time. Let's say if they get rid of stadium and Iono you, get rid of stadium and disrupts your hand, you will have a very tough time. So it's a meme deck, but I do see some people going to play with it. Okay, next up we have the new EX, which I think is going to be in a lot of decks, mostly as a support Pokemon, but in this case it is one of, if not the main attacker, and that is Terrapagos EX. So both its attacks are very good. First one, Unified Beatdown. If you go second, you cannot use this attack during your first turn. That is how powerful this attack is, right? This attack does 30 damage for each of your bench Pokemon. So with the new Area Zero Underground, you can have up to 8 bench Pokemon. That means you can hit for 240, yeah, maximum 240 before you add on like maybe Choice Belt and whatnot. But 240 for 2 energies, 220 for a DTE is very strong. Okay, and the second attack, Crown Opal 180, 3 energy 180 is not that strong, but if you read what's below, during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from non-colorless Pokemon. So your opponent either has to use a colorless Pokemon to attack, or they have to double boss like Prime Catcher boss, Counter Catcher boss, and whatnot. Otherwise, this can be quite tanky and very hard to get rid of if, let's say, your opponent cannot do it or doesn't have a colorless Pokemon, right? So this is a sample deck list, focuses on colorless Pokemon. You also have Dusclops and Dusknoir to increase your damage, and of course Blood Moon Ursaluna EX to clean things up. Any other new trainers other than Bria? Yeah, no. Area Zero Underground 4-off is very good. This deck list doesn't use the second attack of Terrapagos EX, just 4 DTEs and 1 Jet Energy, but 240 is very good with Dusknoir and Duskull to top up any additional damage. It could be viable. So this is another Terrapagos EX deck, but with Glimmora EX. So it's an old EX Pokemon that quite a lot of people took notice but didn't really play it because it's not that strong, to be honest. But with so many decks playing Area Zero Underground at the moment, having one of Glimmora EX could work. So what Glimmora EX does is, if it's in the active spot, your opponent can only have 3 bench spots. So that can be very damaging, especially if they don't play cards like Super Rod or any recovery cards, especially if they have like 8 bench Pokemon. You promote a Glimmora EX up, they have to discard 5 Pokemon, and that reduces a lot of their damage. So very cheeky. Approved, I would say. Is it worth the slot? Maybe. It could win you some games. It's very spicy, I would say. And oh, there's a new card called Bouffalant, which you must have 2 in play, and if you have at least 1 in play, your basic Pokemon, basic colorless Pokemon, I'll put it when I edit the video. So you take, essentially your Terrapagos EX takes 60 less damage, which can be very, very important, especially when in this meta a lot of decks like to one-shot you. Taking that 60 less damage means you can attack twice. And with Hero's Kick, your Terrapagos EX is going to be very, very tanky. So this is what the deck aims to do. Be very tanky, and you have the one-off penny, I believe. Yep, there it is. And 3 judges to disrupt your opponent's hand. This is a bit disruptive in nature. So if you are one of those players that like to disrupt your opponent, make your opponent's life very difficult, you can consider this. We now move on to the deck that I feel a lot of people will start to play again, and that is Palkia V-Star. So remember Area 0 Underground, and you get to have up to 8 bench Pokemon. Fits perfectly with Palkia V-Star. And remember Noctowl. Oh, I haven't talked about Noctowl. So Noctowl, when you put this card to evolve your Hoot, you can search your deck for 2 trainer cards, right? It's not items or supporters, it's 2 trainer cards, so you can have both and then put it in your hand. So it's like the Drizzle and Palkia V-Star again, except you don't have Scoop Up Net, but it is still very, very good. So if you and your opponent both have 8 bench Pokemon, that is a lot of damage, more than what it has been doing during Palkia V-Star's dominance in the meta. So now that it's doing even more damage, I do expect quite a lot of people being interested at least to try Palkia V-Star again, right? So otherwise it's a very, very usual Palkia V-Star deck, what you would expect. I'm not a big fan of this list because it only plays 3 Area 0 Underground. I'm a big fan of 4 because it is essential to the deck. Chien-Pao EX, it's for you in the event you can't find your energies. Otherwise, yep, pretty good list, I would say. Okay, so this is what I expect most people to play. Oh yes, you also have a Rotom Foam. So this is very, very good because it allows you to search for 3 Pokemon that are 100 HP or less. Yep, so you can find your Hoot, you can find your Noctowl. What else is it? Basically, it's a searcher for your Hoot and Noctowl, and Manaphy if let's say if you are facing a mirror match. So there's also a Spiritomb to stop what's that? Rotom Vs. Yep. Yeah, this is more, I would say, more concise and probably the more consistent Palkia V-Star deck list. Of course, the Canceling Cologne and the Prime Catcher is always very, very good. I would prefer 4 Iridas because this deck runs on Iridas, right? Irida is the main supporter of the deck. You want to have it as many turns as possible. You want to use it as many turns as possible. So 4 Iridas and 4 Area Zeros for me. Otherwise, pretty much I like this deck list. So this Palkia V-Star deck list is a little bit different because it plays the 2 Mask Ogerpons. One is Wellspring, the other one is the fighting one, which I forgot the name. So this is more for the strat attack of the fighting Ogerpon. The name escapes me, but I'll put it there. Yeah, so because this Palkia V-Star decks in general loses to Mimikyu unless you charge up your Radiant Greninja and hit it, right? So if the person has like 2 Mimikyus, it's very hard for you to handle that. So having a shred attack definitely helps, and of course the Wellspring Ogerpon allows you to have sniping options outside of Radiant Greninja, which is A little bit creative, just that one-off tech. Not a big fan because you have to add in 2 fighting energies. Yeah, but to be honest, I'm working on something similar to this. It's a little bit more techy experiments, right? So this person won a gym battle, which is a small tournament held by local shops in Japan. So if it worked for him, it could work for some other people. Alright, so those were the deck lists that I found to be quite interesting from Japan that have been doing well, at least winning gym battles over there. There hasn't been any major tournaments in Japan for the current format yet, so we can only rely on these local shop gym battles and whatnot for deck list. Let me know which decks you want to try out or are interested to find out more about in the comments. I think that this is a very fun meta because there are a lot of decks to experiment with, especially with the new mechanics, with Pokemon that can attack, have strong attacks but need like multicolored energies. I think that is very interesting. So it could shape up, or rather shake up the meta a bit. Shake up the meta a bit. Yeah, so really looking forward to playing in this format, especially in Asia. It's going to be the start of a brand new season and can't wait to see what people have been thinking up of. With that, thank you so much for coming to the end of this video. Sending you lots of love. See you in the next video.